Hey guys, so today I'm back with another DIY or makeover furniture video for you guys, and this is a dresser that I got actually last year around when we bought our house. Right after we bought our house, I started buying a whole bunch of like furniture off of like Facebook and stuff like that, and hunting. I usually love doing the hunting stuff. So this dresser came with two large vanity mirrors and a headboard and the dresser, and it was $75. So I couldn't beat that price. So I'm just cleaning it up, getting it ready for its makeover, and I had to fix one of the drawers because it fell over in the U-Haul truck. My husband made an unexpected stop and it fell on its face. So one of the drawers kind of shifted a bit so it doesn't close all the way, but I really don't mind it. So I'll fix that in time. But I'm going to show you guys how I do my makeover on this dresser. So I took out all the drawers. I'm vacuum cleaning it, removing all the dust, any loose anything. And as far as the doors, the previous owner had glued in one side of the hardwares. So the hardware, I couldn't reuse it. One side was fine. I could have easily taken it out, but one side, they for some reason glued it in. They put glue in the hole, put the screw in, and then screwed it on, and I had to break it off to get it off. But that's fine. I'm actually on the hunt right now to get replacements. So now that we have it nice and clean, we're going to go in with our bonding primer, and I got this from Lowe's. You guys can purchase it at Lowe's. Even though I'm doing chalk paint, I'm still going to prime my wood, and this primer is used on furniture that you don't want to sand or you don't feel like sanding. It works really, really well. You can definitely check out the reviews on it or go to Lowe's for yourself and ask questions about it. They'll be more than happy to let you know about it. But I honestly love it. I've used it on the furniture in my studio. You guys have seen the DIY on the big vanity, and I have had no chips or scratches or anything crazy happen. So definitely worth the money. So I'm using a paint roller to roll on a thin layer of the bonding primer onto the dresser. Make sure you clean it, okay? Vacuum clean it, wipe it down with water and vinegar, get all any oils, residue, dust off of it before you prime, okay? And I'm just gonna take off the doors. I should have did this before I started priming, but the way my mind works, sometimes I start doing something and then my mind starts drifting away and starts thinking about something else. Or I just do things way ahead of myself, you know what I mean? All right, so now I'm using a brush to get around all these corners and little circular and designs in the wood and stuff like that. All the work that has been put into this furniture, I really want it to show when I redo it. Like, you know, it looks nice in its wood stained color, I guess, but that's just not the look that I'm going for. I'm not that big of a fan of dark furniture. So since this dresser is large, and it's very large, I want it to be light and bright. It's not going to be white, by the way. I know the primer is white, but remember, it's just primer, and this is just gonna stick to our surface and get it prepped and ready for chalk paint. And this is just gonna make it more durable, hold on to that paint much better without you having to sand, because obviously I'm in my bedroom and I don't want to sand, you know, furniture in my bedroom. It's gonna mess up the air quality. It's just a mess. So, you know, I could have brought it back downstairs into the deck, but this thing is extremely heavy, so that's why I'm using the bonding primer. And for those of you that are in apartment buildings and things like that, and you don't have the space to sand and you don't want to do that in your apartment, you can benefit from using the bonding primer, okay? It's definitely one of my favorite things to use in makeover projects. So I'm using, like I said, a brush to get around all the little small corners, the crevices, all the little designs and stuff like that in the wood. And I'm going to go ahead and just finish it off, put a thin layer all over. I'm also going to be showing you guys how I create my chalk paint, and I consider it more of a durable chalk paint. It's a recipe that I got offline and I altered it to fit what I like, okay, or what I prefer. So I'll show you guys in the video how I create my chalk paint, especially for furniture that's going to be used a lot. Like this is a dresser. I'm going to use this every day. I'm going to touch it every day. I'm going to pass by it every day. Whenever I shower, I'm going to open drawers and things like that. So it needs to be durable, okay? And I also speeded up this part of the video because it is long and boring. You know, it took me about maybe 30 minutes to an hour to prime the entire thing because I had to you know, this is a video. I've edited out certain parts. I had to keep getting up and doing stuff for my kids and stuff like that. So you know, it took a little bit of time, but definitely worth it. Now Jack decides he wants to meow for something. So as you guys could see, I'm going in with the roller and then going in with the brush. And like I said, I'm using it for all the small areas, all the little creases where the brush roll won't reach. So now that we have it all primed and ready, we're going to let that dry for 24 hours, okay? Now for the chalk paint, we're going to use 1/3 cup plaster of Paris, 1/3 cup bottled water, not tap water. Just use bottled water just to be on the safe side because you don't know what's in your tap water. It could have chemicals or little particles or something that's going to mess up your whole texture. So just use bottled water just to be on the safe side, okay? You want to mix that around really well. You can use like a little egg beater if you want to, but one that you will not be using for food again. Make sure that it's nice and smooth and there's no lumps or bumps in there, okay? It's very important that you don't have any bumps inside of it because when you paint, it's going to dry chunky, okay? So the paint I'm using is called Gold. I got this from Walmart. It was $15 a gallon, I think. And I'm going to use 1 cup of that color. It's not really going to change the color much. You'll see, you guys. It's not really going to change the color much, the plaster of Paris and the water. It really isn't. It's going to thin it out just a tiny bit, but it'll still have a nice full opaque coverage. So make sure you write this down. To make your chalk paint: 1/3 cup plaster of Paris, 1 cup bottled water, and 1 cup of paint. But to reinforce this DIY chalk paint, I'm going to be using an extra ingredient just because this furniture or this dresser will be used a lot and daily, okay? A lot and daily. They're pretty much the same thing. Why did I say them both? It's going to be used a lot. You guys know that. You know this. Okay, so make sure you get all your paint in there and make sure the measuring cups and items that you're using to measure your paint, your plaster of Paris and things like that are not reused for food. Do not reuse them for food. Okay, it's not going to be food safe any longer, just to be on the safe side. All right. Now, to make this DIY chalk paint more durable, we're going to go ahead and mix it up. Make sure you combine all the ingredients right now. And then we're going to add our extra ingredient, which is the bonding primer. So I'm adding in 1/4 cup of bonding primer to my DIY chalk paint. This is going to reinforce it and keep it pretty much chip free. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, sometimes chalk paint chips, okay? Even the expensive stuff that's like $45 or $40, a quarter of a can of chalk paint chips. So with this recipe, I haven't noticed any chipping, and you know, I've had this dresser painted for more than 6 months now, and we've walked into it, things have banged into it. You know, we put a TV on it and everything, and there's no chipping or anything like that. Even the dog has ran into it. All right, so that's our extra ingredient. So mix it all up and make sure it's nice and smooth. You don't see any white parts anymore. Make sure it all looks just like the tan gold color. It's not really gold. It looks like a khaki tan color or beige. It looks like beige too. It could go a lot of ways. All right, so once you have it all in there, go ahead and start mixing. I just wanted to let you guys know I've had this 1 can of bonding primer since the beginning of all my projects started. So it does last a very long time. Just in case you see the price and you're just like, it's too much, it's definitely worth it. Because once you start with one project, you're probably going to do more. Okay, so I started painting, and as you guys could see with one brush stroke, it's very opaque and it covers completely. Okay, and I'm using a cheap brush from Walmart. These are their cheap, I believe these brushes are $1 or $1 and change. What you need to do when you get them is kind of use your hands and pull on the bristles a bit to make sure you get all the loose hairs out, because you don't want the hairs to come out while you're painting, or else it's going to get stuck in there, and then you have to go touch it and you'll have fingerprints and things like that, and you have to paint it over. So the cheap brush works perfectly fine. This is the broad one. It's a bit shorter, but it's nice and broad and covers a lot of area, and it is a cheap brush, like I said, and this is chalk paint. I prefer to use a cheaper brush, and I do like the way the brush strokes look. I love that slight textured look without it being too smooth, but smooth enough, because we are going to sand this once we're done. Alright, you guys, so I'm just gonna finish off painting the top, and we will be doing 2 coats. You can do 1 coat. 1 coat is perfectly fine, but I'll be doing 2 coats on the dresser. If you notice, I'm taking very long strokes, as long as I can, and I'm pulling them from corner to corner pretty much, because I don't want there to be an edge. If that makes sense, I hope that makes sense. I don't want there to be an edge of where you can see that I stopped with the brush. So when I'm brushing, I'm lifting up the brush at an angle upward to make sure there's no edge. All right. As you guys can see, I also taped the inside of the drawer openings. I taped just a part of it so that I can have a part of it that I'm going to paint, and then the rest I'm not going to paint. And I'm using the same brush, just turning it on an angle and going in between the area that's very small right there between the edge of the dresser, the top part of the dresser, and underneath where the drawers will start. By the way, if I didn't mention it, you can keep your chalk paint for 1 to 2 days if it is covered properly. Some people say you can only keep it for 1 day, or you can use it all in 1 day, but you can keep it for 1 to 2 days. I've kept chalk paint up to 3 days. Okay, for this project especially, I've kept it for up to 3 days, because remember, I still had to paint the drawers, and I had to do a 2nd coat and things like that. So make sure you get one of those paint cups. They sell them in Lowe's or in Home Depot or any hardware store. It's a paint cup that comes with a cover, and you can mix your paint and everything in there, use it, cover it for another time. You know what I mean? So you don't waste it, and you always have a little bit just in case a ding happens. Like, I think it can last a long time, but I haven't tried it out. But if it can last up to 3 days for me and still be nice and wet and ready to use, I'm pretty sure it can last a bit longer. It wouldn't hurt to try just to see, okay? I really feel like the paint, the makeover on this dresser just kind of brings it up to, current times, because the wood finish that it had, like, it was beautiful. It's beautiful wood that was used to create the dresser, of course, but it's a bit dark and dated, and I want to bring it up to 2018, to match the bed that I bought and things like that. I'll post a picture here of my bed so you guys could see if I have one that's recent. My room's probably a mess. Probably don't have one. But if I do, I'll post one that looks, Instagram ready or YouTube ready. If you think about it, when you make your own chalk paint, it probably costs a lot less than buying the quart that's $40 or $45. It's probably higher now, And I've seen people use the expensive chalk paint on some furniture pieces, and then after a while, it chips. And I have some pieces with the fancy stuff on it, and it's chipped. So I will be redoing those pieces in another video later on this channel. I'll show them to you when the time comes. They are pieces that I bought for my room, and when I bought them, I didn't plan on keeping the color anyways. They were already painted by the seller with the chalk paint, and yeah, they started to chip and they get stained very quickly. So I'll be redoing it with my own version of chalk paint. I really do like how the strokes look in the paint. It gives it a kind of rustic look without it being too over rustic. Okay, you know what I mean? Like, too much rustic looking furniture just doesn't do it for me. I know some people really like that look, but it can look really old if you overdo it. You know what I mean? Like, it could, like, shabby chic. There's shabby chic, and then there's, okay, did you just find this off the street and put it in your house? Like, where did you get this from? You know what I mean? So we want rustic look without too much patina. Is that the word? Patina. Patina? I think that's the word. I'm probably saying it wrong. Forgive my accent. You know what I mean? When they take the sandpaper and they rub certain areas to give it that nice used old look. Well, with the brush strokes, it gives me that rustic look without me having to do that, because I don't really like doing that on furniture, especially if I just painted it. It really depends on the type of furniture it is, but bedroom furniture, I do not want that rustic, like overly rustic look on there, that shabby chic. No, no. I just feel like in the bedroom, your furniture should look really nice, elegant, depending on your taste, of course. Like if you're into super modern furniture, like it's gonna look really clean, clean lines, solid colors. Like I like older pieces, but I also like solid colors. I don't it doesn't have to be like clean lines all over the place, but I do like older pieces that have, some character to them, that I can redo with a nice solid color, and it gives me that vintage look without it looking too old in my bedroom. They do sell pieces like this brand new in TJ Maxx and Home Goods and all these places for hundreds of dollars. I know you guys have seen them. I've seen some pieces, like I saw this locker thing. It was painted like this weird teal green color in chalk paint, and then the locker doors were left metal. All the paint was sanded off, and it had rust on it. Literally had rust on it, and they were selling this thing for $2.99. You guys, it was probably the size of two nightstands put together. It was not that big, and this was in Home Goods, and I just looked at it. I was like, no. I like to go on Home Goods and look at all the pretty stuff. It also gives me ideas to redo other pieces, but I rarely ever buy anything in there because it's just super overpriced. Home Goods is really good for people that don't really care to do DIY or don't have the time or space to do it. But I just wanted to kind of rant that a bit because things, like you can do it. You can definitely do this on your own and save the money and, have fun while doing it, create your own look. And this way somebody comes over, they're like, oh my God, I love that piece. And be like, yeah, I made it. I did that. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. So now I'm going to paint the inside part. So you see where I taped it? I just left about an inch worth of space there just to paint it in. So this way I didn't have to like fuss and try to get the tape around the precise edge right there where the slide ends. So I just taped it like that. So this way it gives me a nice clean line without me having to fight and try to get the tape perfectly straight up against the edge and all that extra stuff. And I do like how it came out. It looks more professional, just painting a little bit inward of the dresser. Some people that I've seen redo furniture don't even paint the inside. They'll paint the outside of the furniture, they'll paint the outside of the doors, but they won't even touch the inside, which really bothers me. I'm like, you could put a little bit of paint there, at least a very thin coat. All right, so you guys, that's how the dresser looks when I'm completely done with it. We're gonna let that dry, and then the next day we're going to add a second coat. That will be in part 2 of this video. Now for the drawers, I'm going to go ahead and take off all the hardwares. I do have a video on how I clean the hardware. I'll put a link down below in the description box so you could check it out and see how I make the hardware look nice and brand new again, because it looked really old and worn and it looked really dirty too. So I'm going to show you how to clean it in the description box. There's a link to show you that, okay? Using my trusty old butter knife. This butter knife has come in handy so many times. I'm going to go ahead and take out all the screws. I know a lot of people like to complain about my butter knife and, leave little shady comments like, oh, don't you have any tools? Like, I have tools. I just prefer my butter knife. It works for a lot of things. If you guys look closely, once I take off the hardware, you'll see all this dust that's been collecting under this hardware for years and years and years and years. It's just crazy how dust can get into those tiny spaces. So we're definitely going to be cleaning off the top part of the drawers with some water and vinegar. Okay, and you can use a towel and just clean it off. So now that I have all the hardware off, I'm going to go ahead and clean them off. Clean off all the drawers, I mean. Once I'm done cleaning them, I'm going to go in with a bit of painter's tape. And I don't know if you guys noticed, I have plastic down on the floor just to keep my floors paint free. I taped that down in place. But I'm going to go ahead and use some painter's tape and tape behind I guess the top part of the drawer. So behind it. where the edge is and the side of the drawer. Just tape behind it, just to keep paint from getting there. Sorry about that, you guys. So now that my dresser is dry, it didn't really take long. It dried that same night, but I did my second coat the second day. So you guys will see that in part 2, and you'll see the finished product and everything else in part 2 of this video. So as you guys could see, you get a really nice clean line. It looks super professional when you paint on the inside and put the tape down and get it nice and clean. Like, I've never purchased a piece of furniture that's been painted that came with nice clean lines on the inside. It's usually all like random brush strokes and it just looks a mess. So, you know, since I'm doing it myself, I want to do it a certain way. So now I'm going to go ahead and use bonding primer on the front part of the drawers, and they are not sanded. You can lightly sand if that makes you feel better, but I'm not going to. These videos are meant to be easy and helpful, and since this primer is made for putting on furniture that already has a stain or a finish on it, and it pretty much seals it in, that's why I'm using it to make life for me and you easier. It's totally up to you if you want to wait the full day to let the primer dry completely for 24 hours, 12 to 24 hours, or if you let it dry for about 3-4 hours and then you go in and paint. It's completely up to you and what you want to do and how long you want to wait. You know, I haven't really noticed a difference in waiting a whole day or not waiting at all, because these drawers, I pretty much started painting them an hour after I painted them with the primer, and nothing has happened, no chipping, no anything like that. But my vanity, I did let that sit for a whole day, actually for more than a whole day. They sat there. So it's totally up to you. So now I'm using the same brush that I used to paint the dresser, and I'm just going to go ahead and paint my drawers, and I'm doing 2 coats on all the drawers. And thin coats, not very thick, heavy coats, thin coats. Even though the first coat is very nice and opaque, I'm doing thin coats. In the middle part of the dresser, there are drawers that don't have hardware on them. The door covers these doors, so I'm just going to paint these as well. And just take your time, you know, take your time. You don't want to put too much paint and have paint leaking all over, or have chunky paint, you know what I mean, where the paint starts to drip and it dries in place and it just looks not as good as you would want it to look, and it looked like you did it yourself. We don't want it to look like we did it ourselves. That's the point. Alright, you guys, so we're nearing the end of part 1 of the dresser makeover video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned a few things, especially with the chalk paint. Hopefully it inspires you to do something cool and different for yourself and for your home. I'm going to start working on part 2 tomorrow, so that's going to take a couple of days to edit and to go through all the footage. And I still have to find hardware for the doors that match and that work right, and screws and things like that. So I'll have part 2 uploaded next week, Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll let you guys know in the community section of this channel when that video goes up. I hope you guys enjoyed part 1. If you did, give it a thumbs up, comment down below, and yeah, I love you guys. Thank you for subscribing and watching. Bye.